Next up with my weapon videos is going to be Sinara's weapon. Just like with Jamie and Layla, she is of course very sought after, being main enabler of the bleed synergy. Bleed is typically the most around whale formation at the moment. There is starting to be a bit of a swing with stuff like female cav being played more and more at that top end at the moment, but bleed imp is still very, very prominent, and her weapon will directly increase with the stars you get on it, the total amount of normal attack recasts you'll be able to get as you increase it through the stages. Interestingly, her total percentages for each level will continue to add up to 100%. So here it's 70 plus 20 plus 10, and there it's 30 plus 40 plus 30. So as you increase the levels, this first percentage goes down, and those percentages get added to the higher recasts. Something to note, which I have seen some confusion about, is this doesn't mean there is an 100% chance to cause normal attack recasts. The percentages are sequenced individually, so you'll have, say, a 10% chance of attacking 4 times total. If that doesn't happen, you'll have a separate 20% chance of attacking 3 times total. If that doesn't happen, you'll have a 70% chance to attack 2 times total. And then if none of them happen, you'll have, of course, a 100% chance to attack 1 time as normal. If you look through reports, you might think it's proccing a lot less than it should be. In my experience, this can be sort of a visual trick because the recasted normal attacks can't then recast more normal attacks. So if you get continued Sinara reprocs, they'll show as normal attacks. They'll just have the lower damage, but it will flood reports so hard it will feel like it isn't proccing as much as you maybe expected it to. So like Layla, like Jamie, they're sourced in the exact same way. They're from archery contests. You've got to choose the Sinara, Layla, Jamie trio. You'll then be able to get fragments for a weapon through the 3 fragments to a limit of 10 on the board, her random chest, which can give the full weapon, or more realistically, fragments somewhere normally between 2 and 18, or you can hit the big chest, the main reward, and that will give you Jamie, Layla, or Sinara's weapon in full. In my previous videos on the other 2 commanders, I've attributed about a value of 75 fragments per 4,000 black diamonds for each weapon, but that does count the big chest in it and dividing it by 3. So it's hard to put a specific number on what it would require to unlock this because it will really depend on luck. It could cost 40 BD, it could cost 10,000 BD, it will be somewhere in between. But I'd say on average, about 6,000 BD to get 300 fragments shared somewhere around those 3 commanders, and then you've just got to hope that the luck falls your way and you can get Sinara if you're specifically chasing after her. So I have in a private Discord tab, as I have for all the previous weapons, all the stages of her weapon mapped out. You can see all the stages of her inf attack, toe health as you go down, and all the different stages of her weapon's effect also. So I've done some maths to show how these changes in her 4-star actually play out practically, just like with the Layla video. As I said previously, the maths aren't necessarily entirely mathematically accurate because you're attributing value to all 3 of the recast percentages, but they can't proc simultaneously. But it is a good visual reference, if nothing else, and you can see the trend is very mathematically clear either way. Before I get into this, by the way, with the continued comments I get whilst doing these videos of stop leaving that poor girl without a response or something, like if I show Dell's DMs, this is what you're asking me to reply to. This is what you're mad at me leaving unread. Her asking for tits on a TikTok. So it isn't urgent. It's okay, I can leave her unread, it's fine. So a base troop will attack 1 time for every normal attack, obviously. That makes total sense. That's the baseline. Sinara's 4-star alone at base takes that up to 2.1 as a mathematical average. Note this isn't damage. The damage is listed down here instead. This is just the normal attack triggers, so this is what's relevant to stuff like stacking Kevin or triggering bleeds through Rhea's 4-star. The actual damage itself will be listed down here. As you go down here, there's that big jump of 1.1, which over doubles the normal attack procs, and then when you unlock the weapon, it jumps up by 0.3. And every star past this will only increase it by a half of that value. So the most significant jump is actually unlocking Sinara's weapon to base. And I think because of that, particularly with bleed typically being very specific to infantry, getting Sinara's weapon to base for bleed players will be the most important weapon to get to base from these free synergy weapons. As you go up in the levels, they'll of course be really, really good in terms of how they affect the synergy. But the biggest jump you will get across those three will be being bleed inf and getting Sinara's to base. So as you go down, it will just keep increasing by an average of 0.15 normal attack triggers. The additional 1 recast value will keep going down, and the higher recast values will keep going up. And there was a bit of a discussion I got dragged into on the official Discord a while back that was somewhat referencing this, I think, where as you increase the levels, you're not really making it more likely for you to get reprocs. You're making it more likely for when you get reprocs, it will reproc more, because it stays at a total of 100% chances. It's just distributed a bit differently, and it's potentially, in practice, more likely to get actual Sinara procs from, say, up here, if you're going through a 70% chance every time, more so than going through 30% chances. But when you do hit that 30% chance, it will be a lot more impactful, of course, than the 70% chances. But that could give a bit of a placebo effect where you think that the 4-star weapon is actually giving you less Sinara procs, because potentially it could be, in terms of it saying this normal attack has triggered Sinara, blah, 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 blah. But when it does show that with the 4-star weapon, you'll have these times where it's proccing 4 times, a lot more than you'll have at just a 0-star weapon instead. Then when you map this out according to the actual normal attack damage you're going to be getting from this, and this will also translate into bleed, because bleeds do stack, so this is both normal attack damage and bleed damage effectively. It's once again the same, where you have a big leap from Sinara at default 4-star to having a weapon unlocked of a 13% increase in normal attack damage, and then it's a bit smaller intervals with the 4.5 throughout. Sinara doesn't have the difficult decisions that came with, say, Layla's weapon, because you can't run, or you shouldn't run at least, things like bleed spear or bleed bow. If you're running bleed, you're gonna be running infantry primarily. You can run bleed cav too, to be fair, but it will primarily be inf. So the base attack you'll be getting from Sinara will always be a value. She'll be 100 Reforge ore to reroll her stats, and she'll be able to roll up to 11 inf base attack, which is obviously great. It'll be 200, then 600, then 1,800 for her locking all costs for locking attributes. And I really do think, mathematically at least, Sinara is for sure one of the best weapons in the game. Because as this goes up, you're of course gaining the more damage, but then you're also gaining more bleed procs and Kevin stacks, and there's a lot of synergy that comes tied into increasing the average amount of normal attack procs alongside the obvious, which is the damage going up. And that is everything you need to know about Sinara's weapon.